Unfortunately, for most of us, it's the end of our days that will give us an evaluation of all our days. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number one, the Torah portion, Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. And we've all perhaps heard the common commentary that this is a strange Torah portion in that it promises details about the life of Sarah, information about who she is and what she accomplished, but the very first verse says that Sarah lived 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. And then verse 2 simply says, and Sarah died. Interesting. This is a Torah portion that is named after Sarah, and yet we do not hear one word that Sarah said in this Torah portion. We do not hear any long eulogy about the glory of her life, the things that she accomplished, no resolution, no end of the day's evaluation. Simply we are informed she died. Well, barring the soon return of Yeshua the Messiah, many of us will face that same conclusion. Prayerfully, we desire to go into the kingdom alive, but who knows what the days ahead of us hold. But it's just interesting that the primary focus promises to be about her living, and yet we are immediately faced with her death. It's also interesting to me that both Sarah and Abraham die in this Torah portion. Yet it's not named the death of Abraham or the life of Abraham. We're not given that significance. But what does seem to be significant is that now that Sarah has passed, the next generation must continue on that which has already been started. And so much of the storyline is about Abraham dutifully taking care of the need of his wife's remains, and then immediately, it would seem, turning to the need of his son having a bride. It's miraculous that he and Sarah have had a child, Yitzhak being born to them in their old and advanced age. Sarah would have seen her son live to be some 37 years of age, but he is not married. He's pushing 40, and there is really no marriage situation here. Now, we know that Yitzhak is 40 when he marries. He's 37 when Mama dies. So there's a 3-year period, it would seem here, where Yitzhak needs to find completion. Being born is not enough. Now, I'm not saying that for every individual being married is the completion and the fulfillment of life for you. It is for many of us. It is for me. And now that you've heard me say that, send a line to my wife and tell her I said so. But the understanding here is that the next generation must continue on the lineage of Abraham so that the covenant has a vehicle by which to move down through subsequent generations until it can produce the nation of Am Israel. Abraham and Sarah lived a faithful life. Now let's review just for a moment exactly what it cost them. It cost them their culture, their homeland, their family identity, their comfort, their foundational beliefs. It cost them a complete change of direction, location, perspective, and hope for the future. They endured accusations. They endured test after test, trial after trial, situation that was challenging. Hagar shows up, Ishmael shows up, Abimelech shows up. There's all those ins and outs with Lot, but all of those things are now behind them. This couple were sent on a mission to bring monotheism to a pagan land, to walk in the midst of a people, a culture, a region of peoples where they were absolutely the exception and not the rule. The varieties of peoples that they would have encountered would have worshipped a pantheon of gods and idols and mystic spirits of a variety of types. The culture would have been violent. It would have been steeped in lewd practices. Their minds would have been warped by generations of bloodshed and demonism. And in walks this couple, preaching and teaching, exemplifying, demonstrating the faithfulness of the one true Elohim. It's amazing that the Creator chose a couple, a man and his wife, to walk in the middle of the place that the Creator is unknown. He is misidentified. He is misunderstood. And through the lives of this man and his wife, Abraham and Sarah, Yah becomes known to the entire known world. Faithfulness. If one thing could be said at the end of the life of Sarah, and in just a few chapters, the end of the life of Abraham, is that they were faithful. They believed, and they walked out what they believed. They proclaimed the reality of Yahweh Elohim to the world that he had created, and they demonstrated the path that will eventually lead to our own exodus and our own return home. It was Abraham and Sarah who received the covenant promise of the land. And the land also included a covenant promise of an heir. And they were faithful to produce that heir. And they were faithful to walk that land and put it under the soles of their feet that they might possess it. What they did and how they lived benefits you and me. You and I have a hope, a concrete, evidenced, sure hope that wherever it is that we live and however it is that our days will conclude, that beyond the other side of that is the fact and the reality that we will enter into that very same land. We will walk where the souls of Sarah and Abraham walked. We will see the mountain ranges and the valleys that they saw. We will build homes in the places where maybe they pitched their tents. We will raise future generations to know Yeshua, the King, the heir, that is typified by Yitzhak. We're not so different. We may not live in a tent and be surrounded by flocks of camels and sheep and cattle. We may not smell like goats in the morning, but we're really not that different. You see, we're called to walk in faithfulness. Yochanan, John chapter number 1 says that Yeshua came to his own and his own did not receive him. They did not know who he was. In chapter number 3 of Yochanan, Yeshua the light came and exposed the darkness, but men were lovers of darkness more than the light, because the darkness exposed their evil deeds and their sins, and so they clung to darkness instead of to the light. Yet, you and I are called to be the light bearers of the revelation, the glory, the truth of Yeshua the Messiah, the embodiment of the living Torah, to walk it out as he demonstrated and as he has taught us. And in doing so, wherever we walk, we claim covenant land for the Most High. We claim covenant promise. We claim covenant destiny. This life is about the life to come. May you and I be as faithful as Sarah and her husband Abraham, whose deaths we read about this week, but whose lives we emulate every day. We'll talk more tomorrow, and until then, shalom.